garden. He is the tree of life. And Revelation chapter 2 says, if you eat of me, you will never die. The third place I see garden and vineyard, and there are others, I'm just highlighting a few places that have been instrumental in my life, is in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 2, where Solomon is talking. He says, and I planted thee vineyards. I don't have time. I've already preached this many times. Don't have time to recapture the truth of chapter 2. But to just show you in verses 6 through 8, he says, I made me pools of water. He made himself orchids. Verse 5, I made me gardens. I made orchids. I planted trees. And here's the truth of this passage. Here's what Solomon is teaching. Whatever is missing in you, you will try to go outside of God and create. Whatever is not being produced in you, you will go outside of God and try to recreate that in your own life. That's why people are hooked on so many types of abusive things. It's because what isn't a reality in God they're discovering, they go outside of God and try to find it, and they try to make it outside of God. So if God is not showing you the reality of the garden within, you are going to try to go outside and try to find it in other places. I don't have time tonight, but I'm going to come back and show you that the Father has two sons. I got way too much to say in too little time. He's got an older son who speaks of an old order, and he's got a younger son that's too immature to understand his inheritance. But there's a younger son that's going to learn to go outside of the house. He's going to realize what sin will do. And come to the understanding that I'd rather be in the Father's house than live crazy out here in sin. It takes maturity to know what's out there and not want it. But sometimes we've got to go out there and see for ourselves. Now, I'm not endorsing that or encouraging that, but sometimes it happens to find and discover the reality of God's love in the Father's house. Amen. But when the younger son comes back, the older brother had not yet changed. Why? Because there's always an old order that's trying to tie you to principles and to a religious place. Amen. But there's a young son that's trying to teach you that inheritance is not in your do's and don'ts. Your inheritance is in who you are. I just don't have time tonight. I'd like to talk about the gospel for a little bit. The Father did 5 things that changed the course of human history in the life of that young son. 5 things. I can't get into it tonight. But we're going to get into it. Hallelujah sometime. So there's a garden that is to be understood within you. Now, I'll go to Song of Solomon chapter 6, verse 2. And I can't teach this the way it ought to be taught. If we taught the Song of Solomon chapter 6 the way it really ought to be understood, it would be a marriage for married people only. Y'all hear me? I can't teach it, really. Except to just give you my beloved. Let me go to verse 1. Song of Solomon 6. Where has my beloved gone, O thou fairest among women? Where is thy beloved turned aside, that we may seek him? My beloved is gone down into his garden.